Alex, thank you for joining me today to discuss these things with me. And I just wanted to, let you introduce yourself to my guests and, tell them if you can what you're doing, the company you're involved with, before we, start talking about other topics.
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Alex. I work for a company in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, called Kiro. And Kiro is focused on bringing people together online in new ways. More specifically, bringing people together through a video chat program and with sex toys added onto the video chat program in order to feel each other, taking it one step beyond just seeing and hearing, adding another dimension to it.
Sure, sure, interesting. And so now, just clarify this for me. Are you guys the same company that we saw on the Vice short that came out not too long ago? I believe it was called the Digital Sex Industry or something along those lines.
Digital love industries. We were the finale of the show in effect. For the first time ever, they combined wireless, hands-free sex toys, our ones, with Oculus from Point of View 4, and then
Sure, sure. Now that was very interesting. So,
Mhm.
for those of you for those of you who haven't watched it in my audience, what they essentially did is they took the Oculus Rift and a device. What is this device called, Alex?
This device specifically is called Onyx, and it's a male masturbator with interactive touch.
Okay, so this essentially is controlled. It's a online, I guess, interactive online. I don't know if on the female's end she has some kind of like phallus tool or something that is literally interactive with some sort of fleshlight tool that the male uses on his end. Correct?
Yeah, it's a touch-sensitive vibrator that she holds, and she can use it to pleasure herself, but at the same time, it records that data and pleasures the male as well.
Interesting. Okay, so now, well, by the way, to the listeners, we do have to apologize. There's some construction in the background that can't be avoided. So if it comes up, we just have to kind of work around that, unfortunately. But so, Alex, let me give you just a brief introduction into what we do as men going their own way. Now, I contacted you, and I think it's very gracious that you're taking time to spend with me. But we essentially, men going their own way, are a community of men who who have been building this online community, kind of surrounding an analysis of the male sexual role in society today. So we look at things like feminism, we look at things like the sexual revolution, we look at things like traditional gender roles, and we analyze our role in that relationship with society. And we have come to the conclusion, a lot of us, that feminism and even the predecessor to feminism, which I guess we could call traditionalism, the
Yeah.
the modern gender role where the man is expected to provide and protect for a woman, and a woman is kind of there to nurture and raise the children or what
Yeah.
have you. Uh, we have come to the conclusion that feminism, the sexual revolution, is something that allowed women to kind of do away with that traditional gender role that's been expected of them, and embrace all an expanded subset of their sexuality, which allows them to sleep with whoever they want, and birth control and
Yeah.
certain technological advances that came around allowed women to essentially free themselves or divorce themselves from the burden of reproduction and kind of embrace their sexuality a lot more completely than men have been allowed to, both in the technological and societal sense. So I know we talked about men are lacking a reliable form of contraceptive, and this is a big thing in the MGTOW community that we pursue and we advocate for. And also we believe that there are societal pressures that keep men kind of rigidly in this gender role of being the breadwinner, and so this translates and filters into male sexuality and how male sexuality is viewed. So, what do you think about that, Alex? Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, I can definitely see where these opinions of your community are coming from. I think it's quite evident in the 21st century, especially since 2000 brought the advancement of a lot of drugs, technology, like you mentioned.
Sure.
Um, men are still in the roles that they were traditionally set or developed or evolved. And there are definitely men that are pushing this metrosexual image forward, such as obvious names such as David Beckham, a well-known comedian called Tim Minchin, who quite boldly wears very female clothes, a heavy amount of makeup, and has long hair.
Sure.
However, those gentlemen still remain breadwinners.
Yeah.
And that's not frowned upon, of course.
Sure. Well, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it, that some men have kind of taken on this form of almost an androgynous form. So in a way, they've become, I guess, closer to the feminine, but they're still really expected to have this provider role. I find that interesting.
It's being pulled both ways in a sense. I think a gentleman is expected to be more intimate, more concerning about female emotions. We're meant to know a lot about that, but at the same time, you're meant to still stereotypically be able to build a house, win a fight, for example, or fix the TV when it's broken.
Sure.
And somehow, when it comes to women who can fix a TV or women who fight, people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! They're stepping out their female gender roles."
Sure, sure. Well, yes. We see this problem, and we talk about this at length in our community. And by the way, we as MGTOW, we don't frown upon women achieving, going into fields like STEM fields, science and technology, and all that. So long as they earn it, and they earn it, by outcompeting other men. So we don't frown on women kind of exploring things that are perhaps traditionally masculine.
No.
But the thing is that men, generally speaking, yeah, you're right. They're being pulled in two directions. They're being expected to kind of empathize with the feminine or with female emotion more and more, and kind of repress and even suppress their masculine tendencies. We see this in the educational system with boys being prescribed Ritalin and so on and so forth, just for being boys, and it's a huge problem, I think. And so these are the types of things that we talk about as MGTOW. And then, that's the acronym we use. I don't, want to confuse you. Men going their own way. We just shorten it and call it MGTOW.
Okay, MGTOW, that's cool.
Yeah, but so these are the type of things that we talk about. And of course, when talking about these things, we kind of we of course have to cover male sexuality. Can you still hear me, Alex? My screen's okay. All right, yes. So we talk about male sexuality as well. And one of the things that we've noticed is that it's almost as if female sexuality functions as the default of approvable sexual behavior. It's almost as though women are much more free to take part in sexual behaviors that society might label deviant or what have you, if it was men or males engaging in this behavior. We see this with, for example, homosexual male relationships are a lot more taboo in this society than lesbian relationships, for example.
Definitely.
And so we explore these things, and in doing so, we come to the conclusion that it's not just things like feminism that have repressed male sexuality, but this has been something that's been going on for a lot longer, for a very long time, and it really is steeped in biology and the sexual dimorphism that our species, the reality of our species is, differences between men and women. We're definitely not the same, and we have different reproductive strategies that we take advantage of in order to pass on, our genetics and reproduce. So what men going their own way are starting to do is starting to question these roles that they've been that have been foisted on them, and starting to question whether or not it's necessary to live your life as having this duty to provide for a woman. And as well, we're starting to explore the unleashing of male sexual sovereignty, if you will. Men no longer being ashamed of things like owning a fleshlight. I guess that's the comparative example in comparison to a female vibrator, which is, of course, 100% acceptable in our society today.
Yeah.
But comment on, if you can, why you think there's a difference between things like fleshlights, or even for I guess homosexual men, something like a prostate massager. Why are these things more taboo in your opinion than a female vibrator?
I think these things are more taboo for a few reasons. One of the first ones being the fact that it's quite manly to masturbate with your hand. It's not as taboo for a gentleman to say, "Oh, I masturbated the other day." Whereas if a woman was to announce that she used a vibrator the other day, it's seen as sexual and interesting and not a shock.
Uh-huh.
And I think men maybe don't want to use a fleshlight or a masturbation aid because they feel that they can do it themselves, or they feel that they're enough, or
sure. Well, do you think perhaps, and this is just an opinion I'm throwing out there,
yeah.
Do you think perhaps that in using these, sexual tools, men kind of have some kind of psychological break that they have to overcome, where they don't feel like it's kind of capitulating to, or admitting to themselves that, or maybe they'll feel that they can't get a woman, so they have to resort to this.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and that's probably very valid. The fact that they're substituting a woman for a toy, but
the thing is, on the other side of it, women don't feel ashamed.
Exactly. Some obviously do. I know many women that I've had conversations with, being in the industry that I'm in, and they wouldn't disclose any information. And same with some other men. But recently, BuzzFeed released a video about men using sex toys for the first time. And they said everything that we are talking about now, prior to using them. And after using them, half the gentlemen were absolutely ecstatic and said that they were definitely going to use one again. So maybe it's just overcoming that first boundary of...
Sure. I think that when men start to gain access to the type of inventions that you're putting out there in the market, and fleshlights, and then as soon as it's destigmatized, and this is where I think a cultural shift has to take place before men are going to embrace something like this. But when it's destigmatized, I think men are going to take to it rather quickly.
Definitely.
And so that brings me to your product. What is the reaction? What is the reaction that you've seen from men in terms of this interactive, I guess, sex toy that can be used, with a partner, without a partner? Do you think that in the future, men could use this by themselves, and I don't know, almost like you would at a gym in a treadmill, select a program and have at it, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I would refer to the iPhone being a matter of just a decade old. The iPhone has been in evolution, and I would like to think that within the next decade, teledildonics, which is what they're known as, or cyberdildonics,
sure.
or remote
now, please, if you can, Alex, just explain to me the concept of describe exactly what it is.
Yes, cyberdildonics, as I like to call them, because I think it's a little bit more sexy, are sex toys that use the internet to contact each other and send movement. And now that comes in all shapes and forms. Some companies have made products that stroke or vibrate or expand, but ours in particular contracts in motion for up and down, and that basically replicates the feeling of the thrust between two people. And usually they've been done through direct contact, direct computers, or an application. For example, some Far Eastern countries have done it that way. Okay. But the difference with our company is, for the first time, we've combined video chat with the products, so you can see and hear, just like you could always do with other applications such as Skype or FaceTime, but in real time you can also feel someone moving, and you can show your partner or your lover that you're connecting with the movement.
Interesting.
And that really bridges something that's never been done before.
Sure. So what you're doing is you're providing a form of intimacy that previously was unavailable to people, because, of course, a whole lot of sex is the emotional component of seeing the person you're with and experiencing that. And so, you are trying to replicate this as much as possible over the internet.
It's definitely the best experience of online intimacy available at the moment.
Sure. So, and how how are women reacting to this?
Genuinely, 99% of people, their faces transform when they see it happen in real life. Maybe the concept's a little bit hard to get your head around, but when you see it happen in real life, and you understand the exact technology and the exact way it works, most people's jaws drop and they laugh and they find it absolutely brilliant and they want to have a go.
Well, Alex, I have to say, this, in my opinion, is going to open up a whole can of worms. I don't even think we can predict what the ramifications are in the future. But
I've mentioned that it will open a can of worms, but we have ensured the fact that this is safe and secure because...
I don't mean like, negatively. I think that what I'm trying to say is that the possible psychological ramifications for how relationships and sex is going to change from here on out really is something that we can't even foresee. No. But I think a lot of positive is going to come out of this because I always say, and I've said this in a previous video, that the internet and things like virtual reality and Oculus Rift and now these toys that you're developing really are an extension of reality. It's not, people call it virtual reality, but I disagree with that term. I think it's an extension of reality. Yeah. And, like it was said in the Vice short, give it another 20 years, the internet is going to be a place you can go to. You can experience things real time in the internet.
I agree.
It's going to be an actual physical place. And so it only makes sense that couples, whether they're heterosexual, homosexual, male, female, whatever, are going to start congregating in this new space. And what's the first thing that we do when we have a new space to interact in? We start asking whether or not there's a way to incorporate sex into it.
Definitely. And if you're with people that you know, people that you love and care for, and whether it's in reality or extended/virtual reality, you'll want to do the same things that you always do, which is go for coffee, have fun, and then go home, have sex, enjoy each other's personal space. And now that's possible.
Sure. And how do you think infidelity is going to change?
Oh, God. Well, I think people will do what they want, no matter where it is in the world or what you...
Yeah, it's probably just going to be an extension of how affairs or cheating happens in the real world, isn't it?
People have said, hey, this is going to make cheating easier. And I said, look, if you're going to cheat, you're going to cheat. You'll do it whatever way you can. And cheating is not just physical. Cheating is emotional. If you're sexting with someone for a year behind your wife's back, that's cheating.
Yeah. And so now let me ask you then, do you guys plan at all to, before I get on that topic, do you plan to incorporate things like, I know I've seen various articles where there's now this invention, I forget what it's called, but it incorporates smells via the internet. So you can download a smell program. And I know they tried this in the movies. There was like a smell-o-vision or something that they tried to incorporate smells into movies. Yeah. But of course, sex is pheromones and scent and all that plays a huge part in sexual activity. So do you foresee something like that in the future, or do you guys have any ideas to incorporate other senses besides just touch and feel? I think really the applications are limitless and you could go on forever, but, is there any creative ideas or do you even want to divulge that information?
We definitely have some plans for the future. Like I said before, the iPhone, for example, started with the bare minimum and quickly moved on to adding more and more elements because they got better at what they do, and we're definitely moving forward, and smell is definitely on the agenda, as well as two-way stimulation for both males and females, because at the moment it's two-way for males but just one way for females, and that was done interestingly for the safety and security of the women, so that they're not getting thrusted without wanting to.
Okay, understood. So now, and of course, this is like a male-centric or an androcentric perspective on these issues. So tell me, how do you think that this is going to affect or change male sexuality? I mean, is there anything that you foresee happening? Any kind of
I genuinely think, like, I know this is stereotyping, but men have a larger sex drive, or think. Apparently, we think about sex more on a daily basis. But whatever it does, I think it's going to satisfy men more, and it might just do that classic thing of once you've masturbated, you feel relaxed and happy. So it might just do that a bit more for people. You get what you want, and sex is a very personal thing. The amount of fetishes I've heard of recently that I never knew existed.
Oh yeah.
Unreal.
The internet has kind of opened up, the toothpaste isn't going back in the tube,
No, this will just, I think this will just help people get what they want and enjoy it the way they want, wherever they want. That's the top.
Because the reason I bring that up, Alex, is because when we saw with the advent of internet porn, with the creation of internet porn, or at least the proliferation of internet porn, where it became something that's free and ubiquitous and widespread throughout the internet that anybody can access in the privacy of their own home. This takes away that thing that we were talking about, that societal force that's being exerted onto men that shames their sexuality for wanting various, different access to various different women. This is something that's, natural in the male sex drive. So, we see that. I don't know if there's a correlation or not, but we see that with the advent of internet porn and things like that, people aren't getting married anymore. People aren't. How do you think this is going to affect normal heterosexual relationships between men and women? Do you think that men are perhaps going to be less interested in women? Do you think that they're going to only be more? What do you see happening?
I think it will improve the relationships and actually possibly keep people together, for the reason that if you're away from your partner and you're on a 6-month work expedition or 3 months or whatever time you have,
sure,
you have that intimacy which previously we've been lacking, and you say, I miss you so much, I can't do this relationship, we're not together anymore. This brings you together in a way that basically makes you feel like you were never gone anyway.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think it will keep people together for longer.
Well, I think what it will do, it'll vastly improve the long distance relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And long distance relationships come in many shapes and forms for many different time periods as well. My friends, for example, have partners who are doing world tours at the moment, doing their gap years and things like that, for example. And that's a very different time frame to as if someone was working in the mines or in the military, where they're out for 1-2 years at a time. And relationships are all very different, so everyone has their own preference. But I think it will actually enhance people's relationships, because it will stop that distance seeming such a scary thing.
Yeah. Well, it will provide that physical, feeling that you correlate with that person.
Yeah.
And certainly it'll help. But now, and I think you guys are doing excellent work, and let me just applaud you, for what this is excellent work that you guys are doing. But let's shift gears briefly to and I just want your opinion on this. What do you think the ramifications of the male pill is going to be, the male birth control pill? Because some statistics that I've seen show that, at least in America, over close to half of pregnancies are unplanned. Do you think that it's a big problem in terms of men embracing their sexuality and then taking control over their sexuality? That men still don't have a reliable and reversible form of birth control, and how do you think that's going to filter into society once it becomes available?
I think I'd like to hope that once it becomes available, men will be sensible and take it regularly, and effectively be able to control their ability to ejaculate with a functioning sperm. But I think that will, in effect, make men more confident when they're with women in public situations or intimate situations, because they know that they're on equal playing fields.
Sure. Yeah, I really, we've been waiting on it for a long time. It looks like finally there's a couple of technologies, one in Indonesia and one in India that is being marketed in the USA under the name Vasogel. That's currently under FDA trials.
Okay.
So hopefully, it's we've been waiting for this for a very long time and very excited about it. But this is the type of thing that we do, Alex, is we try to analyze the weaknesses that are caused by our desire to obtain sex from women and our desire to, I guess, protect women. It's almost innate. It's like a biological thing that puts us. We want to show that we're the man, we're the dominant man, and we can protect and provide. And so we'll put ourselves in all sorts of bad situations in order to look masculine in front of women. And this is a big weakness that the male psyche has, unfortunately, that we seek validation from women when we should be seeking validation for ourselves. But I think it's a very hard psychological barrier that needs to be surpassed. And most men aren't even really aware of these things that are driving their psychological the manifestations of their physical actions via the male psychology. So what are your opinions on that? Do you think that men need to start really asking themselves about their sexuality and how it actually manifests in the real world?
Yeah.
And do you think that we have hang-ups that puts us in a role of almost servility towards women? Even though, of course, we want to look masculine and we want to look like we're in charge, but really, when it boils down to it, the position of the traditional provider and protector, he is in a role of servitude to the women. He really is putting himself in a position where he is making himself expendable. We have this term, male disposability, where all throughout history you could see that men are still required to sign up for selective service, for example, on a condition if they want to vote. Here in the States, I don't know how it is in Amsterdam, but here in the U.S., if we want to be able to vote, we get a card at the age of 18 saying that we have to sign this form, saying, a conditional form saying that if we want to vote, we have to sign up for this, draft registry, just in case they want to draft us ever again, Yeah,
I understand what you mean. I think that... Sorry, what was your first point?
Well, I want to know, do you think that we as men have these hang-ups? Do you think they exist, and what can we do about it?
Yes, I think we do have these hang-ups, and it starts from the moment you're born, and I know this from personal experience because I have a daughter as well. Okay. I think that we do it without noticing. We give our children pink rooms, blue rooms. We give them diggers and trucks, and we give the girls dolls and fairy lights. It's a very simple metaphor for all the other things in life that we expect men and women to do, and adults and parents reinforce that right from the beginning, and they do it at school as well.
Sure.
So I think the onus is actually on the people who are having children now, or the people that are bringing up children in this generation, to make them equals, or to educate them on every single part, not to force a girl to be a girl, but to educate her to be a CEO. Just the same as a male should be a CEO. I have no problem with a woman being above me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important that both genders are given the opportunity to pursue whatever path it is they want to take, even though if that runs counter to the traditional ideas of masculinity and femininity. But I want to ask you: do you think that any of this resides in unchangeable or fixed biology? How do we encourage both men and women to pursue whatever path they want to take without ending up in a situation where we start punishing either masculinity or femininity?
Yeah.
Like for the example that I gave you, the boys that are prescribed medications because they're being too boyish. I mean, what 5-year-old or 7-year-old kid isn't rambunctious and ready to jump out of his chair during class? How do we get to that point, in your opinion?
I think it will come with support from like-minded people, from like you're doing yourself, groups of people that have the same interests in supporting each other to believe in what you believe in. because everyone has an opinion and everyone can get their opinions out, and there's enough people around the world that you can keep in contact with to feel part of a group that will support you in your beliefs. One of them being the acceptance of gay couples, and how being slightly effeminate, for example, is not cool or unacceptable. When I know firsthand some pretty effeminate guys that are totally straight and masculine. So
Sure.
you can be whoever you want to be, just as long as you're with the right people that support you and love you for who you are.
Sure.
I believe that's the way forward, is not putting other people down because of who they are, just accepting it, which I think the world's getting to.
Yeah.
I think the world's getting there step by step.
Now, okay, then that's an interesting point that you raised, because, and by the way, I agree with you completely that we shouldn't take specifically men and say, well, you're not manly enough, or chastise them because they don't fit this role of masculinity. But
yeah,
we do confront the issue sometimes of what's the word that I'm looking for? There was a documentary called The Demographic Winter, where when men start, and this is an argument that is brought up a lot with people that kind of want to offer a counter opinion to the MGTOW, I guess, philosophy or what have you. When men start discovering that they can own their sexuality, that they don't have to be a provider or protector, or that they don't even have to be traditionally masculine.
Yeah.
For some reason, they tend to stop having kids. They tend to stop having kids, and they tend to start having doing things for themselves and enjoying their own lives, and not spending their extra income and time on raising families. And of course, we have to confront the fact that we do have to replace ourselves. I mean, but we have 7 billion people, of course. But
yeah,
if this were ever to catch on a widespread scale, there's an interesting phenomenon going on in Japan that's called the herbivore men, and this is in reference to the fact that the previous generations the men were seen as more carnal, and that was just a euphemism for more likely to chase women and more likely to court women. And now, with this economic downturn that Japan is experiencing, the men are starting to really reject relationships and sex altogether, and it's really gotten to the point where it's almost a demographic emergency, where the Japanese are not reproducing at replacement levels. And so this is something that we have to confront. Perhaps in the future, if we develop something like ectogenesis, where men can have children without having to take on the burden of being a provider and protector, other than, of course, having to support their children financially.
Yeah,
maybe that could be a solution. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think you're correct. That's quite a shock that things could turn around and go that direction, because obviously we know there's always been a crisis of the fact that the world is overpopulated, but with such advancements in technology and the ability to change so many minds so quickly, it could definitely become quite an international horror.
Because even though we have an overpopulation problem, you look at the more wealthy a nation is, and there's a correlation between IQ and a decreased birth rate.
Yes.
So in these developed nations, where we're developing these technologies and it's only going to get more intense, the sexual devices that we come up with as a species in order to separate sex and claim it as a pleasurable activity without the burden of childbirth if we don't want it. This is only going to increase, right? So how are we going to perpetuate ourselves in the future? That, I guess, that's the big question. Is how are we going to bring forth the next generation of people? And do you see it being such a problem that it ever even gets to that point?
I think maybe the next generation of people might be single children. So each less families of 3s and 4s, and just single children. And with this increase in wealth, more money focused on the single child, giving them access to more things that they want, educating them more life experience, more travel. It could create the chain reaction that everybody becomes more educated and the world becomes a place full of a lot more business orientated people. At least in the Western world, maybe that's potential, or not in the third world. But then, if the third world do get access to this technology and it decreases in price, then there is the possibility that they might adopt some similar theories, ideas, because cyber sex and stuff like that also prevents AIDS, STIs and stuff. That's another point to make, and it might give people a bit more confidence and a bit more of a pick and mix lifestyle. You could say you could choose exactly what you want and how you want it, because you'll have more money and more ability to select how and when you want your children.
What do you think about things like, and you know, I know, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just wanted to wrap up a couple more topics, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
What do you think about the fact that things like surrogacy, for example, and I know there's a booming industry in India, for example. It's not quite as big here in the West, and especially in the United States, but surrogacy is something that men who choose not, at least, to want this burden of having the financial responsibility of taking care of the mother of your children, but do want children. Some men that want that have taken the path of surrogacy, and it's frowned upon in the surrogacy industry to give heterosexual single men or homosexual gay men, couples, access to this surrogacy technology. Why do you think this is?
I think people are just kicking up a fuss because they want to say something, and everyone's entitled to their opinion and say things, but I don't think that will prevent people from doing it in the long run.
Yeah.
And I personally, like, from my own heart, don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I don't see why any person, any gender, should be disallowed a child.
And lastly, Alex, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
Okay, so there has to have been Luddite doomsayers coming on to your website and viewing your product and saying that this is going to spell the end of the nuclear family and collapse the Western civilization. Have you run into that? Just like, for example, when video games came out, they say they were going to rot the youth and the culture. Have you run into the doomsayers?
I have run into a few doomsdayers, and I have successfully managed to convince them otherwise, I'm glad to say.
And what are some of the arguments that they put forth?
The thing that they're worried about the most is that the Internet of Things is connecting too many things, which is a valid argument. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I've explained that mobile internet has separated too many things. So the Internet of Things kind of maybe is a potential way to bring a few things back together, and everybody can choose how they live their life. They can add or take away more elements to it. And one of the things that we are doing is adding the element of sexual touch, and I hope that people do want to add that to their lives, because it is now possible.
Sure. Now, okay, Alex, if you can do me the favor of giving my audience the information. Of course, I'm going to include links to your site, but is there any relevant information that you want to share about your product and your site? Anything at all? This is your moment to promote whatever it is you want.
Okay, well, after 2 years of development, Kiro is now launching mid-January. We've partnered with Fleshlight, which are the #1 male masturbator in the whole world. So we will be distributing and giving away our devices after the event of XBiz and AVN in Las Vegas, America. They are in January, and we are happy to say that we are nominated for New Pleasure Products of the Year as well. So hopefully we win that one, and we'll let all our customers know. If you go to Kiro.com, there's plenty of new things happening, plenty of new announcements, and you can see how the products work and how they are in action.
Excellent, Alex. So if you'll do me the favor, send me whatever relevant links that you want me to post in the description to this video. And I do appreciate very much you taking the time to talk with us and sharing this information with us and sharing your opinions with us.
My pleasure, my pleasure. It was really good to talk to you.
Sure, and whenever you want to talk again, just let me know.
Definitely, if I hear any interesting topics that are to do with
definitely, because there is interest in this. I mean, men are looking for I know it sounds I don't know, but maybe it sounds antisocial or what have you, but men are looking. There is a very real market of men that are looking to find solutions or find alternative methods of satisfying themselves sexually, because unfortunately, I don't know how things are in Amsterdam. I'm just going to relegate to you how things here are in the United States.
Yeah.
There is, I guess you could say, a gender disconnect with men and women, and there's a lot of factors that go into this. There's things like feminism really going overboard in some respects, and at the same time, men, these traditional relationships kind of collapsing due to the advent of technology and other factors that go into this. And we discussed this at length in my videos. I'm not going to get into that, but men really are. Some men are to the point where they're just frustrated, and so they're checking out because they don't see it as being worth their time to pursue a relationship, at least at that juncture in their life, with a woman. So they are looking for things. Of course, men need sex just like any other human being, women as well. And so they're looking for alternative methods of achieving this satisfaction for themselves. So this is something that's definitely going to only increase in the future. And again, thank you, Alex, and hopefully I'll speak with you again soon.
Yeah, let's speak soon.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Take care. Goodbye.
Yep.